morning, everyone. We're back with more Barnstable this morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live in studio, Director of Public Works, Dan Santos. Dan, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for stopping by. Always nice to have you live in studio. I think the last time you were live, you were out plowing snow, so I'm glad that...
I know, it's been a while. I should do it a little more often.
Absolutely. So talking a little bit today about Stewarts Creek, I see there's an item on this week's Town Council agenda dealing with an appropriation for some money to take a look at that. Tell me a little bit about what some of the concerns with that project are that's kind of prompted this request.
Okay, well, Stewarts Creek is a tidal estuary which is located along Ocean Avenue in Hyannis, and there are a number of these estuaries on the south coast where they're basically rivers that go into the ocean, but in the tide cycle, salt water comes up, fresh water comes down, and this is where we have all the marshes on the Cape. And Stewarts Creek, over the years, the road was built and a culvert was put in. And what happens when they put these culverts in, usually much less water flows through the system than when it was open to the ocean. And so what happens is it becomes more fresh water, and you get phragmites, which are the large plants that are invasive around wetlands. And you don't have as much tidal exchange, so you don't have the plants and the animals that use this area. There's many of them around, and so it's just degrading overall. So about 15 years ago, they started looking at a project there to replace the culvert and open this up and get more flushing, which has really been what's happened in many coastal areas, replacing culverts, replacing them with bridges or bigger culverts in order to have more flushing and to increase the salt water in the system, which is beneficial. So the Army Corps of Engineers agreed to fund a project and actually construct a project to replace the culvert and to do some dredging in the Stewarts Creek, because a lot of sediment had built up, and so the water depths were low and there were odors, and it just wasn't a healthy environment. So we completed that project about a year ago, the Corps of Engineers did, and they installed the culvert. But since then, in the past year, we've gotten a lot of resident complaints about a mud flat that's developing just inside the culvert that wasn't there before. There was open water, and that it really stinks. I mean, it's just awful smell,
Marshy,
much worse,
low-tide.
really bad. And so we've decided, the town manager asked me to take a look at this, and we've decided to get a consulting firm on board to try to understand the system and to evaluate what's been done, what the plan was, whether it should have been successful, and basically what they're experiencing. Is that, could that have been predicted? Is it appropriate? Will it go away, or was something wrong? So we're gonna understand the system better.
Right, and I would assume that because it's nature, it's going to take time for it to regulate. I mean, that particular area had been used to a smaller culvert, and so now you've got the larger culvert, and I would assume that it would take time for kind of nature to take its course and for both areas to kind of get acclimated to the new flow of water.
It's actually a very astute way to look at it, because that was my approach. I mean, we've given it a year. They really need to come to a balance, and you're really changing the system by bringing in a lot more salt water, and so as it modifies, it takes time to balance. So yeah, there'll be some smells, and but the manager agreed with the residents that it's bad. I mean, the smell it's kind of more than you would expect, and so from their perspective, it doesn't seem to be working. So the result may be that it needs time to acclimate and balance, but they just want to be sure that it's installed right and that it was appropriate, and that we're ultimately going to create a better system there than we have or had in the past.
Indeed, and can perhaps it be adjusted? Now, can that culvert be opened up larger, smaller, depending on the type of day, or to deal with issues like this now?
Yes, the culvert is designed to be full open, but there are parts of it that can be modulated, or in other words, we can close down, like you say. We can add boards to increase the level of water in the creek, and we can restrict the flow through the culvert. That was primarily for flood control. So if you had a big storm predicted that was going to have a big tidal surge, we could actually close this down and not flood out properties. So that was really the main objective of that. But yes, there is some control on the amount of water and how it moves.
Indeed. So you're looking for $40,000 for consulting engineering services for the evaluation of that Stewarts Creek. If this is approved, how soon will that study begin, and how long do you estimate it will take?
Well, the study would begin immediately, probably within 30 days, and I imagine probably a 2 or 3 month process. It depends whether or not they have to do field work, and part of this is potentially some field work. After they understand all the modeling and what the Army Corps of Engineers did, our consultant may need to do some modeling themselves. So if they don't, it would be shorter. If they do, it's lengthy. But it would start right away. And what's important about this particular project is, having heard from the residents and their concerns, that we're going to meet with them, with our consultant, so they can hear directly what the concerns are, and people can point out the problems that they see, so that they really get a good sense of what's happening there.
Great. Well, Dan, I thank you so much for stopping by and giving us the update, and we'll certainly keep an eye on this and come back live anytime.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Dan
Thank you.
Santos is our Director of Public Works. We'll be right back with more Barnstable This Morning.